Okay, my friends, this is Roger, and rarely do I get this excited. I have been working with Marguerite O'Reilly for years now on autism spectrum disorder, and we have reached a spot where we feel pretty confident that we know what is really the cause of autism. And it is invasion of the microbiome membranes, and these membranes are just recently discovered. This is something that's brand new, so I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but we have to understand it. And now they're doing this TV show as we see it, which are people with autism spectrum, and it's Rick Glassman, a new show about living on the autism spectrum. Now, as I said, these are literally almost 100% associated to gut disorders. Let me show you this, and then we're going to see what he has to say. And I'm going to talk to you about Marguerite's fabulous research she's been doing. She will be remembered for what she is doing, and people need to pay attention. Because, I mean, it's rampant and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And Stephanie Seneff from MIT, a senior researcher there, one of the top people, said if we don't do something, I think it was like 80% of the boys will have autism in around 2032 or so. It'll be up to 80% if it continues on the climb we're going now. And she's a top researcher. She understands the chemistry, and I do too. And the chemistry is what affects the biology of the bacteria that live in these membranes, and the bacteria that live in the membranes protect you from invasion. Let's look a little deeper into this. Oh, my friends, I am psyched. I hope this works out. This is CBS This Morning. As We See It is a new show about with Rick Glassman about living on the autism spectrum. If you know the work I've been doing, I've been working with Marguerite over in Ireland and her son John Jr., and we have literally cured him from the worst end of the spectrum. Nonverbal, stimming, he was going to be put in a locked ward. It was the worst case scenario. And this was about 3 years ago, at least let's say 2 years ago. And since then, he's been basically stabilized into just normal way of life. He's talking, he's interacting, he's conversing, and they're finding out things about when he did fall under that extreme autism, that he was still aware of his surroundings. So he told Marguerite that one time they were at the zoo and he saw this and that, and she said, I didn't think you had any idea. So they have no idea what these kids are capable of. And then they turn into like this guy, he plays a computer programmer, but he's on the autism spectrum. And he himself is on the autism spectrum, and they only diagnosed him 5 years ago. So they're sort of really puzzled. How could this possibly be that you went through life like this and were never diagnosed? And a lot of people are not diagnosed, and a lot of people that are still affected by the same problems, which is gastrointestinal, are not diagnosed with anything except irritable bowel and Crohn's disease, and they call that pre-existing conditions. Now, listen to what he has to say. I am so thrilled. If I could get to Rick Glassman, we have evidence, Rick. We have 500 families that have been literally cured. Marguerite went to Harvard Medical School for this specific reason, to cure her son, and we did. I worked with her together, and I work with people that are specialists in fascia, which is it's actually interstitium, which is where this bacteria lives. We need some research, we need some money, and this is the time to act. The iron is hot. Now listen to what he has to say.
I'm gonna have a girlfriend. Welcome, Rick Glassman.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here because Jack is navigating new relationships. He's navigating his career. He's also trying to find his independence during all of this time. Did you learn anything about yourself while you were shooting this?
I was diagnosed with autism 5 years ago.
5 years.
And one of the worries I had when booking the show, assuming it went well and I would do this, was being a spokesperson for something that I'm still learning about. And going through the show, and Sue Ann and Albert, who play...
This is what I want to talk, Mr. Glassman. Rick, please, my friend. We understand this. We've been working on this for many years now, and we have hopefully some very helpful information. And if you can be a spokesman, we would like to help you see if we can provide you with any information whatsoever. And I will present information from Marguerite, because we're going to be going on a pretty influential podcast that is for the medical community about the membranes, because they just realized these a couple of years ago. This is a brand new system. It's called the interstitium, and it was if you go, well, I will show you in a few minutes, but if you look it up, interstitium, it'll say meet your new organ, and they never realized it existed before, and that's where your immune system is, and that protects also all of the fibers in your body that are the nerve fibers, so you don't get short circuits. Here goes.
My roommates and so many of the guest stars who are neurodiverse characters are played by neurodiverse actors. I've met so many people, and I've said this before, so I get insecure when I'm repeating stuff, but there's a quote that Dr. Stephen Shore says, if you've met one person with autism, it means you've met one person with autism.
Yes.
And that made sense, but in practice, meeting so many different people and, oh, that's autism, I thought, but, and just realizing how literally and metaphorically across the spectrum it is.
Right.
And it was just very validating that it's not, you're not defined by a thing.
Right.
But yet there is a community of like people that, I like this word, many don't, but just a little weird, that it was really just nice to connect, and I realized that I don't know what autism is.
I think it's interesting, Rick, when you said you...
That's the key. There's so many affected responses to this bacterial insufficiency. What bacteria was killed? These membranes are specific. They're extremely specific. That's why people get certain types of cancer, like breast cancer. Both of the breasts can be cancered because the bacteria that protects that is specific type of membrane. And their membranes are absolutely specific because the chemistry that it protects is specific. So everything's a chemistry set. The bacteria that live in that membrane have to make the chemistry to keep it from becoming invaded. And that's the key. And he could still, anybody with autism, we would like to know, everybody at age 60, if they could still have autism, what is their bacteria like? Do they still have Crohn's disease? And virtually all of them do. They told Marguerite, they said, oh, don't worry about that. They all have it. Well, they all have it because that's what causes their autism. All right, here's some of the stuff from Marguerite right here. This is all the poop and urine data. What changed after certain types of probiotics, and it takes a long time to accomplish this and collect this data, and you have to be faithful at doing it. You have to keep a manual. All right, here's the thing you want to look at: autism and chronic gastrointestinal disorders. Children with autism nearly 8 times more likely to suffer from one or more chronic gastrointestinal disorders. That's your digestion. And your digestion is 100% driven by bacteria. If you do not have the bacteria in your gut, you will be attacked because the bacteria line the membranes and restrict intervention by the bad bacteria. So you're a wide open target if you have chronic gastrointestinal disorders. Whatever you eat, if you take some bad stuff in, it goes right into your blood. And that's why that's what's called a pre-existing condition. They say, oh yeah, they're wide open to invasion. Yeah, they don't have any bacteria in their body. And this is what they really should be studying, and I'm not seeing it happening. Listen to this. These are the healthcare costs for adults. 175 to 196 billion a year, and for children 61 to 66 billion a year. So that's like 250 billion a year. On average, medical expenditure for children and adolescents were 4.1 to 6.2 times greater than for those without autism. And a lot of people are suffering from from digestive disorders and never are put on an autism spectrum, but they still have these digestive orders, Crohn's disease and irritable bowel disease and every kind of membrane invasion. And then membrane invasion goes cancer 1, 2, 3, 4 as it keeps penetrating deeper and deeper and deeper through the layers. Now, Marguerite went to Harvard, and I went to Johns Hopkins for genomics, and she went for the, really the details of the organelles and all that. I don't know exactly what they called her courses, but and then they send me this from Coursera is where you want to go. Coursera you can go for free. I went to Johns Hopkins for free. And then they keep sending out things. You want to come back and do this and that, and it's all free stuff. Now they want me to become an ambassador for courses to tell people to take the vaccine. Well, I took a vaccine. I got all 3 shots, and I understand how it works, and that's because I understand the genomics, and so does Marguerite. It is a little scary, this particular one, because there wasn't a whole lot of time to develop it. So it targets a lot of things. Now, hopefully it's not going to target something that it shouldn't. But there is a concern there, yeah. But there's a hell of a lot more concern about dying from acute respiratory distress syndrome, something like that. There's been a lot of people dying. So I'm for the vaccine. But there's nobody can say 100% everything's perfect. Absolutely not. But you can say 100% you're not going to die from COVID? I don't think so. All right, I'm not going to get crazy with this. What happens, I believe, is the bacteria that lives in, this is a membrane. It's not only a membrane, it's a myelin sheath. And that sheath surrounds the axon, which carries the signals. If that sheath's damaged, you're in trouble. And then there's also these little nodes, they call them Ranvier's nodes. And they could also be getting damaged where the junction meets. I'm not sure, but, well, nobody's sure. We need to look into this. This is what I'm getting at. They can see these things. What they need to do is do some tests and some examinations and some autopsies of people that have somehow passed away having these conditions and see what their tissues are like compared to somebody that passed away and didn't have those conditions. Same age, same sex, same everything, and look and see what was the bacteria in this one versus that one. And why was this one damaged and that one not damaged? And then we can get somewhere. But right now it's just a circular thing. Well, we don't really know. We're just hoping try this and let's see what happens if we do that. And it's just not the way to do the science. I'm a material scientist. I go one step after another. I look for the causes and the cures. I am a fixer. I like to fix things. I don't like to just walk around in circles. My son, when he was really young, he was like 5 years old, he walked up to some other kid who were in a grocery store or something. He walks up, he says, "Hi, I'm Max. This is my dad. His name's Roger. He's a fixer." And that's what I want to do. I like to fix things. Circular walking, that does not work for me. All right, I've been talking about the microbiota, the human microbiota, which is the bacteria that lives in your digestive system. And it comes from the feces area where it digests the foods and then they go into the interstitial fluids. Now, the science of fecal transplants for autism is not there yet. Well, I'd say it is there. And we need to look into it a lot deeper. And here's the way I would do it. Here's what they say. Does it work? Well, in this small group of children, investigators reported the GI symptoms and ASD behaviors improved. The improvements lasted 8 weeks after finishing the therapy, and then 2 years later, the autism spectrum was still better. Transplanted microbiome was still present. So they knew that they replaced the bacteria with good bacteria, and the people got better. I don't see where that's a big mystery that it's working. All right, this is what we need, is a stool analysis. And which means your poop, and they're going to take it and look at everything that's coming through conditions affecting the digestive tract. Exactly what we need. Now they're going to look for parasites, viruses, bacteria, poor nutrition absorption, cancer, all of that stuff. Because all of these conditions can include infection. Now, the stool sample is collected in a clean container, and then in a laboratory. They look at microscopic examination, chemical tests, microbiological tests. The stool will be checked for color, consistency, amount, shape, odor, the presence of mucus, all of those things are indications of how the food is being dealt with in your digestive system. The stool may be examined for hidden blood, fat, meat fibers, bile, white blood cells, sugar called reducing substances. The pH of the stool also may be measured. A stool culture is done to find out if bacteria may be causing an infection. Now, what we really need to know is what bacteria is in the stool. We need a complete history, well, a complete layout of what bacteria are present in what quantities really is the best thing to do. And then compare them between sick people and healthy people. I don't think that's a big do. You know, I started looking into what they consider to be IQ of autistic people, and I see a brightness in them, and I don't think they see that. I think they look at how able they are to communicate, and inside their head, I think it's a whole different issue. But listen to this.
When it comes to autism, finding the right words can be tough. Finding understanding doesn't have to be.
Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mama. Julian, I love you.
Love you too.
I close my eyes, I can see the world that's waiting up for me.
We're so happy.
Together, we can create a kinder, more inclusive world for the millions of people on the autism spectrum.
Who? You. Silly. What if it's too hard?
I'm gonna push through.
What if it's too tough?
I'm gonna push through.
I am strong.
You have been accepted to Kutztown University.
Sweet.